All right, so if you're watching this video, then you should have already gone through and done your best to fill in all the proper moon phases in relation to the Earth and Sun. Of course, you should have your name at the top. And you should have checked this over with somebody else to see if somebody got the same answers as you and really stopped and thought through the process, okay? And what you should find is this. When you're on the Earth and you're looking at the Sun, the moon will be illuminated completely on the opposite side of the face that we will see. And so you'll end up seeing nothing. It's going to be completely dark. Even though the moon's there, the illuminated side will be only facing the sun, not the earth. And this is called a new moon. Okay, so go ahead and write that in right next to it, new moon. Now, as it comes up here, okay, I'll just draw this in for your understanding, but understand that the moon is going to be illuminated on this half, okay? And so when we look up, from Earth's view, that's a little more accurate, I guess. This illuminated part, I really kind of drew it backwards. The shaded side should be over here. But this part is illuminated. And from here, standing on Earth, when we look up, we only see of this face, the right side is being illuminated, okay? And that would be a crescent moon, like this. Now, we're going to specifically call this something different, not just a crescent moon, since we had nothing, no phase. It's now growing larger. It's a growing phase, so we call it a waxing crescent. Right? All right, what do you think is going to come next after that? Remember, this is predictable. We know that it's waxing, so with each moon phase, it's growing larger until, of course, it's completely full. And so the next one that we should see is quarter phase. Now, there's several different names we could use for this. I'm going to get some of this off. I don't like how much filling is on it. But there's several different names we could use for it. You could call it a waxing quarter phase. People usually don't call it that. What we typically call it is it's the first quarter moon that we see. So people call it the first quarter moon. Okay? After this one, remember, we are waxing right now, so it's growing larger. What phase comes after a quarter phase? Should be a gibbous, right? And so the gibbous, if you notice, these are all starting on the right side and moving across to the left. And so we're going to choose the one that is full on the right and mostly full all the way over, but missing on the left, just on a portion of it. And that's this one, okay? So this is a gibbous. It's still growing and hasn't become a full phase yet. So this would be called a waxing gibbous. This next phase is going to be even fuller yet. And the only way you can get fuller than a gibbous phase is to be a full moon phase. And that makes sense because if we're here on Earth, when we're looking over here, this whole half is facing towards the sun, right? So this would be illuminated, and this whole backside would be shaded. And so when we look at it, we only see the illuminated face of it. And only half of it can be illuminated at one time, so therefore it is called a full moon. Okay? What would come next? We can't get any fuller than a full moon. It's a three-dimensional object, but we really only kind of see 2D on it. And so, of course, it's going to have to start the process of getting smaller. Okay, and so if we go smaller than a full moon, only slightly smaller, we're going to be in a gibbous phase. So if you look at a gibbous phase, this is a gibbous. Now keep in mind, the left side of this is going to be in the shadow, but the light coming from the sun is going to illuminate what looks from this angle anyways to be the right side of it. And so when we're looking here, we will see most of the face as being illuminated, but that right side, because keep in mind we're looking from over here, the right side will be dark. Okay? So it should be like this. That is a gibbous phase, but again, it's getting smaller now. We're going from a full moon to a new moon, and so we call this a waning. Waning means to get smaller. Waning gibbous. I know there's not much room on these lines. It was tough to fit in circles big enough for Oreos to fit on, as well as the sun and the earth, and then to have blanks that went with it. So do your best with it, okay? At the bottom, we'll see as we're looking out this way, this half is illuminated by the sun, and this half is not. And so when we're looking this way, the face that we would end up seeing on the left is half illuminated, and on the right, because we're looking from this direction, and on the right, it's dark, okay? So the left illuminated, the right is dark. Again, this is a waning phase. So technically, you could call it a waning quarter, but nobody calls it that. This is referred to as the last quarter. Or some people might call it the third quarter. It's really kind of confusing, though, because you would think first quarter, second quarter, but this was the first quarter. If you add another quarter, you get a half, right? And so that would technically be the third quarter. You can call it either last quarter or third quarter. And by process of elimination, we end up with this. This is a crescent phase. However, when we look here, this portion would be illuminated by the sun, and this side would be in the shadows. And so we would see, looking from this direction, most of it on the right side would be dark, right? We would be looking from here, and we would see to our right, it's all dark, and just a little left sliver. So it should be like that. And that's called a waning crescent. And now you're all finished. Make sure that your name is on it. Assuming your hands are clean, you haven't been touching other people's Oreos, no one else has been touching yours, because you guys are responsible middle school students. You can go ahead and eat your Oreos. Please wipe off your sheets so you don't turn them into me all crummy. And when they're all wiped off and clean and your desk is clean, you can turn in your paper with your name on it at the top. Nice job.